There are people who can create 10 times more value than you in just 24 hours. And the cruel truth is they have the exact same 24 hours as you. It is not because they are smarter, luckier, or started from a better position. They possess a skill so rare that if you do not recognize and master it in time, you will be left behind for the rest of your life. It is the ability to turn focus into a weapon, to block out all the noise of the world and dive deeply into the important work until something emerges that people call extraordinary results. In an era where everyone is busy, but few truly create value, this skill not only helps you rise above, it makes you unstoppable. I've met many people who claim to be busy all day, but when you look at the results, everything is faint. They reply to emails as if that is the most important work. They jump from one meeting to another call. They scroll on their phones as a reflex. And then at the end of the day, they are exhausted, but there is nothing significant to show the world. The harsh truth is, we are living in the most severe focus crisis in human history. Never before has the human brain been attacked nonstop by a flood of signals, notifications, news, short videos, and sensational images like it is now. Everything is designed to seize every second of your attention, and most of them win. The dangerous part is that we do not realize our ability to focus is being stolen bit by bit. The frightening thing is not that you are not working, but that you are always working only at a shallow level, in a chain of busy, scattered, and superficial actions. The biggest trap of this era is not laziness, but fake busyness. You can spend 10 hours a day working, but if it is only small tasks, replying to messages, and checking notifications, you are trading away the most valuable thing, the ability to produce extraordinary results. And here's the paradox. When people are less and less able to focus deeply, its value multiplies. A person who can lock themselves away from all the noise and truly work deeply for a few hours will create more value than dozens of other busy people combined. Look around you. The exceptional individuals, the leaders in their fields, are not always smarter, but they certainly control their attention better. They know how to say no to 99% of the things that pull them off course, so they can pour all their energy into the 1% that truly makes a difference. And let me be clear. If you do not learn how to protect your focus, the world will consume it without asking. Social media, email, news, all are designed to break your train of thought. They do not care what you accomplish, only that you stay as long as possible. That is why deep work is no longer a luxury for scholars or entrepreneurs. It is a survival skill. Without it, you will drift along in the chaos of others. Master it, and you will shape the game. You cannot wait for a perfect environment to focus. The world will never be less noisy, work will never stop being urgent, and notifications will never stop ringing. The only thing you can do is become stronger, train yourself to silence all of it, and hold a mental space that is untouchable. In a world where attention is the new currency, the richest person is the one with the deepest focus. And if you want to break through, to escape the spiral of being busy but meaningless, you must learn to master it right now. You may think you are working hard, but the truth is you are losing each day to things that leave no trace. In the next part, I will show you how to separate yourself from the crowd of fake busy and step into the group that few dare to join, the group that creates exceptional value. Imagine if every hour you worked produced results 5 or 10 times greater than usual. Does that sound unrealistic? In the next part, I will show you the science behind deep work and why it can turn your brain into a super fast learning and creative machine. Why does simply opening TikTok while studying cause your brain to take an entire hour to regain focus? The answer lies in a psychological phenomenon that most people have never heard of, and I will share it with you in the next part. If the previous section showed you how severe the focus crisis is, then now it is time to dig deeper. Why can some people work for 4 hours and be more productive than others who work for 14 hours? The answer lies in the difference between deep work and shallow work. Shallow work consists of simple tasks that require little brain power, are easily interrupted, and create no long-term value. Replying to emails, updating spreadsheets, attending pointless meetings, or formatting a document all consume time but do not move you forward. They are like fast food. They fill you up temporarily but do not nourish your body. In contrast, deep work is the state in which you dedicate your full attention to a task that requires high levels of intellect and creativity. It could be writing a strategic analysis, designing a new product, learning a complex skill, or solving a difficult problem. When you do deep work, you are not just finishing a task, you are building capability, creating products with lasting value, and laying the foundation for long-term success. Imagine it this way. Shallow work is like swimming at the edge of the pool, easy, safe, but it will never let you discover the depths. Deep work is diving to the very bottom, more dangerous, harder, but that is where treasures lie that no one else can reach. The problem is, most of us spend our entire lives at the edge. We mistake busyness for effectiveness. We lull ourselves into thinking that the more we do, the better we get. But in reality, only when you focus deeply on challenging work does your brain develop, your skills strengthen, and real value get created. This difference is the measure of a person's caliber in the 21st century. When you do shallow work, you are in a reactive state responding to others' requests, messages, and meeting schedules. When you do deep work, you are proactively shaping results, creating something the world has never seen. Ask yourself, in the past week, how many hours did you truly spend on deep work? How many hours were just spent running around handling small tasks? You might be surprised at the number and perhaps a little scared. This is why I say deep work is not just a work method, it is a way of life. It requires you to make hard choices, saying no to certain people, skipping certain opportunities, turning down invitations that sound appealing. Because every time you agree to unnecessary shallow work, you cut away a piece of golden time for deep work. And I want you to pause for a minute and answer this question in the comments. If tomorrow you could only work for exactly 3 hours, would you choose deep work or shallow work? If you find what I am saying valuable, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next part where I will show you how to turn deep work into a real weapon. Have you ever asked yourself whether you are truly living or merely reacting to the world around you? In the next part, I will show you that deep work does not just change your work, it reshapes who you are. How does your brain react when it is constantly bathed in shallow tasks? In the next part, I will explain the neurological mechanism behind deep work, where the secret to superior learning speed and creativity is unlocked. Why do some people become experts in just 1 year, while others take 10 years and still remain stagnant? The answer lies in how they do deep work, and I will reveal it right after this. There is a truth that few people will say to your face. Success does not always come from being better than others, but from learning faster and creating more value in the same amount of time. Deep work is the shortest path to doing that, because when you channel your full focus into a difficult task, your brain begins to activate a special process. It is like forging steel. At first, everything feels slow and resistant, but the more you forge, the hotter it gets. And when it is under the right kind of pressure, you become stronger and sharper. Scientifically speaking, every time you focus on solving a complex problem, billions of neurons in your brain start linking together into a specialized network for that skill. They are wrapped in a layer of myelin, like the insulation around a cable, so that signals travel faster and more accurately. In other words, deep work does not just help you know something, it locks that skill into your nervous system, making it a reflex. This is why some people can master a new language, write a book, or develop a complex product in just a few months, while others struggle for years and remain stuck. The difference does not lie in innate intelligence, but in the quality of the time spent learning. Remember, not all hours of study or work are equal. 1 hour of deep work can be worth more than a whole week of half-hearted effort. The modern world has made us believe that multitasking is an essential skill, but the truth is the opposite. Multitasking kills your ability to learn quickly. Every time you get distracted, your brain has to restart to return to the original task, reducing efficiency and cutting off the process of myelin formation. It is like trying to lift weights, but putting them down every few minutes to answer the phone. Your muscles will never reach their full strength. Deep work is heavy lifting for the mind. It requires you to eliminate all sources of distraction and put yourself into a high-pressure but controlled state to train your capabilities to their peak. This is not easy, but it is the only path if you want to shorten the time it takes to go from a beginner to a master. And once you acquire this ability, you will realize you are no longer caught up in the race for quantity. You begin playing a different game, the game of quality, where a single product, idea, or solution from you can shape an entire market or change someone's life. When you look back, you will see that you are not always working more than others, but you are almost always working deeper than them. And that is exactly why you advanced farther, faster, with steps more solid than anyone else. Deep work does not promise an easy shortcut. It promises a difficult shortcut, but one worth taking. If you are willing to pay the price of absolute focus, it will give you back what this era is losing: a sustainable, superior advantage. If deep work is the path to the peak, then myelin is the pathway inside your brain that helps you climb faster. This is not a vague concept or an abstract theory, but a proven biological phenomenon. When you fully focus on a specific skill, your brain begins to wrap the related nerve fibers in a substance called myelin. This layer works like the insulation around electrical wires, helping signals travel faster, more accurately, and more reliably. In other words, myelin is the infrastructure of ability. Every time you repeat a movement, a thought, or a technique in a state of deep focus, the myelin layer thickens slightly. The thicker it gets, the smoother the signal travels and the sharper that skill becomes. This is why world-class pianists, Olympic athletes, and exceptional scientists can perform their work almost flawlessly. They have wrapped their neural wires through years of deep work. But the interesting thing is that this process only works effectively when you eliminate all interruptions. If you study while checking your phone or write while replying to messages, the neural signals are constantly disrupted. As a result, instead of speeding up, you are creating countless incomplete circuits, weak, leaky, and incapable of carrying full power. Imagine trying to build a highway, but stopping every few minutes to pave a small village road somewhere else. That highway will never be completed, and you will forever be stuck driving at low speeds. Myelin does not care how smart you are, how rich or poor you are, or where you start from. It only responds to how you train. If you spend hours each day on shallow tasks, you are wrapping myelin around the skill of doing shallow work. If you spend your time on difficult tasks that demand intelligence and creativity, you are wrapping myelin around high-level skills. The choice is yours. This is also why the skilled often become more skilled. They are accumulating myelin in critical areas, and each time they return, they perform better than before. Meanwhile, those who remain busy with trivial work are unknowingly reinforcing the habit of mediocrity. Once you understand this, deep work is no longer a vague idea of working with focus, but a strategy for upgrading your brain's hardware. You are not just completing a project or learning a skill, you are investing in a biological mechanism that makes every future skill easier, faster, and more effective to learn. And most importantly, myelin is not formed through half-hearted effort. It only appears when you give your full attention, without distraction, without compromise, to a single goal. Every minute you maintain that state is a minute you are building an advantage that no one can copy. In this era, where knowledge is abundant but focus is scarce, understanding and harnessing the power of myelin is a strategic leap to turn your mind into a superior tool. Imagine you are driving a sports car on the highway, cruising smoothly at 120 km per hour. Suddenly, you are forced to turn onto a narrow, bumpy road full of potholes. When you return to the highway, you cannot immediately regain your original speed. You have to accelerate from the beginning. That is exactly what happens to your brain every time you switch from one task to another. Sophie Leroy, a business professor at the University of Minnesota, calls this phenomenon attention residue. When you are working on task A but switch to task B, part of your mind remains stuck on task A. Even if you think you have moved on to the new task, Your brain is still scattered, dragging your performance down without you realizing it. The frightening part is that this residue does not disappear instantly. It can linger for tens of minutes, even hours, reducing your ability to focus deeply and the quality of your work. So every time you stop to reply to a message, check an email, or scroll through your phone while working on an important task, you are slicing your flow of focus into fragments. You may think it is just a few seconds of entertainment, but in reality, you have just traded away an entire golden hour of productivity. The biggest problem is that attention residue creates a dangerous illusion. You feel like you are still working, still busy, but it is shallow work, lacking weight. You no longer have the depth to produce breakthrough ideas or creative solutions because your mind has been worn down by constant switching. To picture it more clearly, think of writing an important chapter of a book. The words are flowing like a stream. Ideas are pouring out. Then your phone buzzes. You read the message, reply, and return to your document only to find the flow has vanished. You spend minutes, even tens of minutes, trying to find your original train of thought, and sometimes it never fully comes back. Attention residue does not just steal time. It steals the peak state, the mental zone required to produce exceptional work. It is like a musician playing a beautiful piece, but being interrupted over and over. The final result will never reach the greatness it could have. This explains why those who practice deep work are strict about protecting their focus zone. They know that every interruption, no matter how small, leaves a scratch on the quality of their work. They do not multitask, and they do not allow their schedule to be shredded into pieces by dozens of minor tasks. They choose to do fewer things, but to do them in an uninterrupted state so that every minute produces real value. In an age where everything demands an instant response, the ability to resist the temptation of interruptions is a form of power. And if you truly want to work at a high level, you must learn to protect the continuity of your focus as if it were your most valuable asset. Because every time you let attention residue creep in, you are not just losing time, you are losing the chance to reach the deepest layers of your potential. There is a common misconception that people are happiest when they are resting, relaxing, and free from any concerns. But psychological science says the opposite. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, a renowned psychologist, devoted his life to studying and discovering that our most profound moments of happiness often do not come from rest, but from the state of flow, when we are completely immersed in a challenging but meaningful task to the point that we lose track of time and even ourselves. And deep work is the gateway to that state. Flow is not the burst of excitement you feel when you receive good news, nor is it the instant pleasure you get from browsing the internet or watching a funny video. It is the harmony between challenge and skill, where the difficulty is just enough to stretch you to your limits and your ability is strong enough to make you feel in control. When you reach flow, you are no longer working just to finish something, but to experience a sense of fully living. Deep work nurtures flow by eliminating all sources of distraction, giving you the space and time to focus so deeply that your mind forgets the existence of the outside world. In those moments, you are no longer worried about the past or the future. Your attention is anchored in the present, in each action, each detail. And that is a rare form of freedom, freedom from the noise outside and from the turmoil within. But deep work does not only bring mental exhilaration, it leaves tangible traces in your real life. Each session of deep work is a brick laid into the foundation of your achievements. As these bricks stack up, you not only see results, but also feel a deep sense of confidence. I know I can do hard things, and I can do them well. That feeling is a form of sustainable happiness, not dependent on circumstances and not easily taken away. The world today is full of quick, easily attainable, and short-lived pleasures. But the happiness that comes from flow is different. It does not give you an instant dopamine hit. It gives you a lasting sense of fulfillment because you know you have created something of real value. This difference is why those who practice deep work are not only more successful, but also find their lives richer in meaning. When you live in a state of shallow work, you are more prone to boredom, restlessness, and the nagging feeling that something is missing. But when deep work becomes a habit, each passing day leaves a mark. You begin to look forward to those hours of focus because you know that is when you are living most in alignment with your potential. Deep work is not just a work skill, it is the bridge between intellect and emotion, between achievement and fulfillment. It turns focus into a source of happiness and turns happiness into the motivation to keep focusing. Once you understand this, you will no longer see deep work as a strict discipline, but as a privilege, a way of living that allows you to achieve more and feel more. And in a chaotic world, possessing this ability means you are holding a kind of power that nothing else can replace. Deep work is not a rigid mold that everyone must force themselves into in the same way. It is like martial arts, there are many schools of thought, but they all aim for the same goal: deep focus and exceptional value creation. The key is to choose a style that fits your pace of life, personality, and work, so it becomes a long-term habit rather than a temporary effort. The first style is monastic, a closed-off, monastery-like approach. This is the choice for those who are willing to eliminate almost every distraction to dedicate all their time to essential work. They do not use social media, limit email, and avoid anything unrelated to their major goals. Neil Stephenson, the famous science fiction writer, has almost disappeared from online life to protect his focus zone. This style suits those who have high control over their schedules and are willing to sacrifice being always available in exchange for depth. The second style is bimodal, dividing time into large blocks for deep work, alternating with time for daily tasks. Carl Jung was living proof of this style. He spent long retreats at his lakeside house to research and write, then returned to the city to continue therapy work and meet people. This is the choice for those who cannot completely withdraw from social activities or work obligations, but still want long enough stretches to go deep into a problem. The third style is rhythmic, making deep work a fixed daily rhythm. You do not need to disappear for a whole week. Only set aside a few fixed hours each day for deep work. The consistency will turn it into a reflex. This is ideal for those with predictable schedules, such as office workers or people balancing multiple roles. When deep work becomes the golden hours of your day, you will naturally protect it as an untouchable ritual. The final style is journalistic, seizing any available gap to dive straight into deep work. This style requires the ability to switch extremely quickly and is usually suitable only for those with extensive experience. Walter Isaacson, the renowned journalist and biographer, wrote books in rare gaps between interviews and articles. Beginners often struggle to maintain this style because jumping into deep focus requires skill and discipline already built over time. 4 styles, 4 different paths, but one thing in common: there is no room for shallowness. You can choose to close the door entirely, divide your time into blocks, keep a steady rhythm, or seize every free moment. The important thing is not which style you choose, but that you stay committed to it. Like martial arts training, technique only becomes powerful when repeated until it becomes part of who you are. Deep work does not happen by accident. It needs to be scheduled, protected, and valued. When you choose a style that fits you, you are laying the foundation for a system that keeps you away from distraction and allows you to stay longer in your maximum focus zone. And it is within that zone that breakthrough ideas, major advances, and truly memorable achievements are born. Deep work is not just a matter of momentary willpower. It requires a system, a ritual, something that saves you from having to wrestle every day with the question, should I focus today? And turns focus into an automatic habit. Just as a warrior sharpens his sword, puts on armor, and checks every detail before entering battle, you too need to prepare thoroughly before stepping into the deep zone of the mind. This ritual begins with specificity. You must define clearly where you will work, for how long, on what, and under what rules. Your workspace should be a place you associate exclusively with focus. It could be your desk, a library, or a quiet cafe. Your time must be firmly set, not drifting with your mood. And your task list must be prepared in advance so that when you start, you do not waste energy on deciding what to do. Next is setting boundaries. Your rules might include no social media, notifications off, phone out of reach, or even blocking the internet if it is not needed for your work. This is not extreme. It is how you protect your most valuable mental resources from being drained by meaningless distractions. Third is preparing your energy. Deep work requires mental stamina, and just as athletes warm up, you must also fuel and prime your body before entering this state. That could mean having a cup of coffee, eating a small snack to keep your blood sugar stable, or taking a few minutes to breathe deeply and calm your mind. The better you prepare, the more easily your brain will understand that it is time to focus. But a deep work ritual is not only about how you start, it also includes how you end. Ending well helps you close the loop of thought, so your mind is not left hanging between work and personal life. CalNewport calls this the shutdown ritual. It could be as simple as reviewing what you have accomplished, noting the next steps, tidying your workspace, and saying an affirmation like complete or shutdown mode activated. When repeated, this teaches your brain to recognize a clear boundary between work and rest, allowing you to recover faster and prepare better for your next deep session. The point is this: do not let deep work depend on emotion. Emotions change, but rituals endure. On days when you are tired or unmotivated, the ritual will pull you into the flow. Like an athlete stepping onto the field, whether it rains or shines, you will learn to show up for yourself every day without excuses. A solid, deep work ritual is like the steel frame of a skyscraper. It holds you steady against the winds of distraction and creates a safe space for your mind to reach its fullest potential. Once you build this frame, each deep work session will no longer feel like a draining battle, but a profitable habit. A machine that continually produces ideas, solutions, and achievements. The most dangerous enemy of focus is not difficult work, but the obsession with constant stimulation. We live in an era where even a few seconds of empty space makes us uncomfortable. Waiting for the elevator, we pull out our phone. Standing in line, we scroll through social media. Sitting and waiting for an email reply, we open a funny video. We have trained our brains to become unable to tolerate stillness. And here's the problem. If your brain gets used to being fed a constant stream of tiny stimuli, it will resist every attempt to enter deep work, a place that demands sustained focus and patience with the feeling of slowness. Training focus means training the ability to tolerate boredom. It means daring to sit still with a difficult problem without jumping to find an easy escape. CalNewport says, "Do not take a break from work to check social media. Take a break from social media to do work." Set fixed times in your day when you allow yourself entertainment, and for the rest of the time, work without interruption. As you get used to not instantly seeking stimulation, your brain will relearn how to remain present. But there is another habit to break: the dependence on social media. These platforms are not neutral tools. They are designed to keep your attention for as long as possible. Every notification and every scroll is a hook, and the more you bite, the more your ability to focus erodes. Imagine a day without social media. At first, there will be a sense of emptiness, even disorientation. But then, as the noise fades, you will find yourself reclaiming blocks of time you once thought were gone. That is when you can use them for deep work, for learning, for creating, or simply for living fully in moments without distraction. If you want to test your level of dependence, challenge yourself to a 30-day detox. Do not delete your accounts. Do not make any announcements. Just quietly withdraw. Live as usual, except without using those platforms. After 30 days, ask yourself, has my life lost anything truly important? Has anyone really noticed my absence? If the answer to both is no, you may have just found your reason to quit entirely. Training focus is not just about getting more done. It is about reclaiming control over your mind. When you can tolerate boredom, you break through one of the biggest barriers to reaching the peak. When you escape the grip of social media, you regain intact blocks of time, the raw material for building any great achievement. And when those two things converge, deep work stops being a grueling effort and becomes a natural state where you focus, create, and experience the true power of your mind. Shallow work is the kind of work you cannot completely avoid. Emails that need replies, paperwork that must be handled, meetings that must be attended. The problem is not eliminating them, but ensuring they do not consume the time and energy meant for deep work. That only happens when you manage them proactively rather than letting them interrupt whenever they want. Being proactive means setting limits and creating a time budget for shallow work. If deep work is a long-term investment with high returns, then shallow work is operating cost. You have to spend it, but you must spend it wisely and with control. This starts with scheduling. Choose specific time blocks during the day to handle all shallow work. Instead of letting emails, messages, or small tasks break up your day, batch them into a package and process them at once. This not only saves time, but also reduces attention residue, keeping your deep focus zone intact. Being proactive also means having the courage to say no or not right now to non-urgent requests. Every careless yes to a pointless meeting or a fake urgent request is a time you cut away a piece of your deep work hours. Remember, not all must-do tasks are important, and many tasks, if you do not jump on them immediately, will either disappear on their own or be handled by someone else. In addition, learn to prepare so shallow work happens faster. This could mean creating email templates in advance, automating repetitive processes, or setting up a clean task management system so you do not waste time searching. The goal is to make shallow work a streamlined sequence of actions that does not consume too much mental energy. But the most important part of managing shallow work is to treat deep work time as sacred ground. No one is allowed to intrude on it, not even you. If deep work is scheduled, all other tasks must revolve around it, not the other way around. In this way, you reverse the priority order of most people. Instead of letting shallow work control your daily rhythm and trying to fit deep work into the gaps, you make deep work the central axis and let shallow work fill the leftover spaces. When shallow work is managed intentionally, you will find yourself less busy yet achieving more. You will stop feeling like your days slip away in a rush without leaving a mark. More importantly, you will have uninterrupted stretches to dive into important work, the place where all major progress truly happens. Finally, remember, the difference between a good performer and an exceptional one is not that they completely avoid shallow work, but that they know how to limit it, reserving the best of their time and mental energy for what truly matters. In a world constantly trying to pull you to the surface, the ability to manage shallow work is the anchor that keeps you in the deep, where you are not just working, but building the future. When you look back on your life after many years, no one will ask how many emails you answered, how many meetings you attended, or how many small tasks you handled. What they will remember and what you will remember are the moments when you created real value, made a difference, and lived up to your highest potential. Deep work is not just a working method. It is a declaration that your time and attention are priceless assets, and you will not allow anyone or anything to drain them in a shallow way. This path is not easy because it requires you to dare to refuse the things that make most people comfortable. But if you remain steadfast, the reward will not only be success, but also a profound sense of peace, knowing that each day you are moving closer to the person you want to become. I wish you the courage to step out of the cycle of fake busyness, the patience to train your focus, and the wisdom to devote your life to what truly matters. Thank you for staying with me until now. I wish you and your loved ones good health, peace, and the strength that comes from the focus you are building each day.